Tonight, the world watches with bated breath, eyes glued to screens and hearts heavy with anticipation. From bustling city centers to quiet living rooms, people everywhere are united by a single question: what will happen next? The sense of urgency is palpable, as the outcome of these talks could alter the course of history. In Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt, negotiators from across the globe have converged, representing not just their governments, but the hopes and fears of millions. The air is thick with tension and expectation, as diplomats prepare to tackle issues that have eluded resolution for decades. The stakes could not be higher. The conflict has left entire neighborhoods in ruins, families torn apart, and communities shattered on both sides of the border. Gaza and Israel bear deep scars, physical, emotional, and psychological, that will take generations to heal. For countless civilians, the devastation is not just a headline, it's daily life. Children draw pictures of peace while sirens wail in the distance. Families cling to hope, even as they sift through the remnants of their homes. Now, a fragile window of opportunity has opened. This is more than just another round of diplomatic maneuvering. It is a rare chance to halt the cycle of violence and begin the long road to recovery. Around the negotiation table, every gesture, every word, carries immense weight. The negotiators know that failure could mean more bloodshed, while success could save countless lives and reshape the region's future. In Gaza, the humanitarian crisis has reached catastrophic levels. Hospitals overflow with the wounded, children wait in long lines for food, and international aid struggles to keep up with overwhelming need. Starvation and disease threaten to claim even more lives if the violence continues. Meanwhile, in Israel, the pain of uncertainty lingers. Families hold vigils for loved ones still held captive, their absence a constant ache. The entire nation is gripped by anxiety, hoping for news, dreading the worst. On the ground, the fighting has reached a critical juncture. Israeli forces are poised on the outskirts of Gaza City, and every decision made in these talks could mean the difference between escalation and de-escalation. History is filled with failed ceasefires and broken promises. Yet this moment feels different. The world senses that the consequences of failure now are more dire than ever before. Across continents, people debate, protest, and pray. Is this the turning point that will finally bring lasting peace, or will it mark the beginning of an even darker chapter in this long and painful conflict? In these rooms, every word spoken, every agreement reached or broken, will shape the destiny of millions. The world waits, hoping that this time, the talks will matter. At the center of this diplomatic maelstrom, where the stakes could not be higher and the eyes of the world are fixed on every move, a single figure commands the spotlight. It is US President Donald Trump, whose reputation for bold, unpredictable moves has already reshaped the global stage. Now, he steps forward with a proposal that could alter the course of history in the Middle East. Trump has unveiled a detailed, uncompromising 20-point plan, his final offer to the parties locked in conflict. The document, thick with legal language and diplomatic nuance, is more than just a list of demands. It is a blueprint for a new regional order. At its core, the ultimatum insists on an immediate and permanent ceasefire, a non-negotiable first step that Trump frames as the only path to peace. The world watches as the news breaks, the urgency of the moment underscored by flashing headlines and tense statements. The plan's complexity is evident in its call for a carefully orchestrated exchange, one that would require trust, timing, and unprecedented cooperation between bitter adversaries. Under the terms, Hamas would be compelled to release all hostages, including foreign nationals and civilians, in a gesture meant to signal a genuine commitment to ending violence. In return, Israel would free a significant number of Palestinian prisoners, many of whom have spent years behind bars. The emotional weight of these releases is felt on both sides as families wait anxiously for reunions that once seemed impossible. But the plan goes further. Beyond simply halting hostilities, Trump's vision seeks to fundamentally reshape Gaza's future. The ultimatum demands that Hamas disarm completely, laying down weapons in a move that would mark a dramatic shift in the region's power dynamics. To ensure stability and prevent a return to violence, an international stabilization force, composed of UN peacekeepers and regional partners, would be deployed to oversee security and maintain order on the ground. Meanwhile, a newly formed Palestinian committee would take charge of civil administration, tasked with rebuilding institutions and restoring basic services to a population weary from years of conflict. Leading the American diplomatic push are Special Envoy Steve Witkoff and Senior Advisor Jared Kushner, both handpicked by Trump. Their presence in the region signals the administration's deep personal investment and the seriousness with which the U.S. views this initiative. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, meanwhile, amplifies the administration's tough stance, delivering forceful statements to the press and rallying international support for the plan's strict conditions. With so much on the line, the negotiations have become a high-stakes poker game. Each side weighing its cards, calculating risks, and wondering who will blink first as the world holds its breath. Negotiators are grappling with a web of competing demands, each shaped by years of distrust, violence, and failed agreements. The stakes are incredibly high, and every side at the table is under immense pressure from their own people and the international community. The landscape of Gaza, scarred by repeated wars and blockades, is a constant reminder of the deep-rooted grievances and the urgent need for a lasting solution. Generations have grown up knowing little but conflict, and the trauma is etched into daily life. For Israel, the return of all hostages is not just a political demand. It's a deeply personal and emotional issue. Families of those held captive have become a powerful force, organizing rallies and keeping the issue at the forefront of national consciousness. The government faces relentless public pressure to bring their loved ones home safely, but Israel's demands go further. Leaders insist that any agreement must ensure Hamas can no longer threaten Israeli citizens. This means not only dismantling Hamas's military capabilities, but also removing its political influence in Gaza, a goal that has proven elusive in past conflicts. On the other side, Hamas, represented by figures like Khalil al-Hayya, is adamant that a permanent end to the war is non-negotiable. For them, survival as a political entity and the safety of Gaza's population are at stake. Hamas wants ironclad guarantees that Israel will not resume military operations. They seek a future where Gaza's residents can rebuild their lives without the constant threat of airstrikes or invasion. A full withdrawal of Israeli forces from Gaza is another core demand. For Hamas and many Gazans, this is seen as essential for any real peace, symbolizing the end of occupation and the beginning of self-determination. The United States, meanwhile, is focused on preventing further escalation and ensuring that Gaza does not become a launchpad for future attacks. American officials are pushing for a new governing structure in Gaza, one that can provide stability, security, and humanitarian relief. Mediators are caught in the middle, trying to bridge seemingly irreconcilable positions. Each demand is tied to deep fears and long histories, making compromise extraordinarily difficult. Israel refuses to accept any ceasefire that leaves Hamas in power, fearing future attacks. Hamas, for its part, will not agree to terms that spell its own destruction or surrender. The pain and loss of the past 2 years weigh heavily on both societies. The question now is whether that suffering can finally push leaders toward a compromise, or if the cycle of violence will continue. Profound disagreements threaten to derail negotiations. The demand for Hamas's disarmament is a major sticking point. Israel and the U.S. see it as essential for lasting peace. Hamas views its arsenal as its sole leverage and identity. Disarming would leave them defenseless and politically irrelevant. Another contention is Gaza's future control, with the Trump plan proposing an interim international administration. Hamas rejects surrendering authority to an external body. The issue of guarantees remains critical, with Hamas demanding a permanent ceasefire. Israel won't provide guarantees while Hamas remains armed. This deadlock creates a circular logic, hindering progress. Beyond political wrangling lies a human reality of horror. The Gaza Strip is a landscape of ruin and suffering. The death toll has surpassed 67,000 Palestinians. Homes, schools, and mosques are reduced to rubble. A mass displacement crisis has forced over 2 million people to flee. Starvation and a collapsed healthcare system exacerbate the crisis. The UN inquiry charges Israel with acts of genocide, which Israel denies. The people of Gaza endure a nightmare, their fate hanging on the talks. The negotiations unfold under the shadow of October 7, 2023. The fate of 48 hostages in Gaza is a national agony for Israel. Families demand their leaders prioritize a deal for their release. The hostage issue is central to the negotiations. The proposed exchange is a painful but necessary transaction. For Netanyahu, securing the hostages' release is essential for political survival. The anniversary of the attack amplifies the emotional weight of the moment. The Gaza war has captured global attention, provoking powerful reactions. Major world powers exert pressure, each with their own interests. Key Western allies recognized a Palestinian state, signaling impatience with the peace process. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer calls for a two-state solution. Public opinion becomes a major factor, with massive demonstrations worldwide. Pro-Palestinian protests demand an immediate ceasefire and accountability. Vigils and rallies in support of Israel highlight the trauma of the attacks. International pressure mounts on both Israel and Hamas to end the fighting. The future of Gaza and the region hangs in balance. One path could lead to a permanent ceasefire and reconciliation. It requires Hamas to relinquish arms and Israel to accept non-military security. The other path is darker, with talks collapsing and renewed conflict. Trump's ultimatum leaves little room for ambiguity. Failure to secure a deal could lead to a brutal confrontation. The success or failure rests on leaders making politically impossible choices. Arab nations as potential peacekeepers offer a novel solution. The world watches to see if peace can prevail over perpetual conflict.